Hi folks, Wiley here again, and once again I'm going into part two of this how to paint an Alpine Village from your imagination. And this is, as I said, part two. I think there are going to be four parts of this. You will see that I changed the sky a few times, and I changed the sun, moon, sun a few times. This is, like so many of my works that are from my imagination, it's just very experimental. I changed my mind. I'm not copying from a photograph. I'm just slinging paint, making adjustments, having fun. I'm going to let the audio record through this entire video, just one take. I am not going to speak the entire time, just only when I feel like you need to be apprised of what I'm doing, and hopefully I'll remember, because I am recording the audio months after this painting was done. So like you, I'm remembering, or I'm experiencing it for the first time in a lot of ways, because I've forgotten much of the process or much of the sequence of what I did. I do change the sky a lot. As you can see, I decided to make it a sunset here, and that will probably change. I've, over the years, gotten kind of fond of putting orange in to do various things, such as to give it a nice color tone. Plus, using the orange like this, you'll see that I work it into the blue sky, and it gives an overall green cast to the entire sky. And of course, once again, that could change. I am not going to go in depth about what brush I use or colors I use. Well, maybe I'll talk about color a little bit in a few minutes. These brushes, I get, I think when I was younger, I cared more for my brushes, and now I just use whatever size or style I grab, and some of these brushes are just so burned out. You see I scrub against the canvas a lot, and it gives me a lot of opportunities to make different textures, and not be worried about you know what's going on. What do I use the proper size brush? Is it the flat versus the bright? Which I can never remember the difference in those two things. I am quite fond of rounds and filberts, because I think, especially with the filbert, you can do a lot of flat and a lot of turning it sideways. You can do line work, but as you can see, a lot of what I do is just scrubbing really hard and pushing paint. I like to push paint around. I actually prefer to paint on panels, like a Danish plywood panel or a cherry panel or something, because I feel like you could put paint in one corner and force it all the way to the other corner just by your brushwork. It's a little bit different working on canvas like this, because the weave of the canvas snags your paint and tries to keep it in place sometimes where you may not want it. So as you can see, I'm just burning off that brush. It's probably shouldn't buy, if you paint like me, you shouldn't really invest in decent brushes. That being said, if you're doing watercolor, then a good set of brushes really will enhance your work and improve your work, and you really do need to take care of those brushes. But I've learned over the years that don't blame the brush. Just use you've seen what's his name, Bob Ross, paint with these big house painters brushes. So and you'll see sometimes I rub my fingers in, or paper towels or rags, and paint with whatever I have, which usually is brushes. I don't often do any knife work or any palette knife work. I've tried to like it, and I just don't understand, or I just don't like the process. I prefer a brush. What I'm doing now is I'm using some yellow, and I'm just trying to highlight the hillside and the trees in the background, trying to make them a little more fuzzy, and just trying to paint some sunlight into the background. And again, right here on the hillside. And here I'm using a mixture probably of phthalo green and a little bit of cerulean blue, and of course some medium. And trying to darken or push some of this foreground into the shadows. If you look at a lot of old master paintings, you'll see that their foregrounds are very dark, and detail is not that noticeable. And the idea is that it forces you to look more into the painting. This is an effect that we use to control what the viewer is looking at. So you can see, you know, the viewer is going to go, the eye is going to go for the brighter color. So you use this technique to loosen the word, to take away the power of the foreground, to take away, to divert attention from the foreground and control where you want the viewer to look at. I think I'm talking in circles at this point, so I'll just take a break. All right, and so looks like I am just adding some dark to the trees. Stop. All right, so here we go. Let's see what I'm gonna do. I'm doing the enhancing the branches on the evergreens, and just trying to create the shape of the tree. As you look at the this type of tree, you can see the upright growth at the tip, at the top, and then as you go down, the pine boughs or evergreen, whatever you want to call them, kind of level out, and then as they get closer to the ground, they get heavier and older, and gravity kind of drags on them, and that's how I paint them. And you know, my brother can look at these and go, well, that should be a spruce or a pine or this or that, and I just kind of paint a deciduous tree of some kind, and I don't really distinguish between all the particular types. I'm not trying to do a botanical illustration or, you know, an encyclopedic illustration. I'm just having fun painting evergreens. And as of course you all know, in the part of the world that I'm trying to paint, you know, an Alpine mountain village sort of thing, then you know there's a lot of deciduous foliage there, and that is why I'm painting in this brush, this lower type of evergreen brush. You know, dark green. And this is probably a mixture of phthalo green or viridian, which I never use out of the tube as it is. I always cut it with a little burnt umber or a little burnt sienna or a little transparent orange or something to brown out, to kind of dull that acidic green look that viridian and phthalo green have. And it looks like I'm just putting a little bit of shadow in the lower parts of some of these trees. And now we're moving over to this other one on the other side and doing the dark, putting the branch and the trunk in, etc. Now, I know a lot of people making videos of painting like to just show you the beginning and the end, and I suppose I could make these shorter, but I like you to see the entire process. If I just show you the beginning and the end of these trees or whatever it is I'm doing, I don't show you the middle, I think that maybe you missed something, and I really do these obviously not to make money, but to share what I have learned over the years, or what I think I know, so with others, so that you can paint too and improve your paintings, because my God, it's the best life in the world. I mean, painting has been good to me. You know, I haven't always sold a ton, and you know, but I've always painted. I've painted since I'm 13 years old, and you can probably see that I'm much older than that now, and and I sell moderately well, and I do okay. It's art is not a career, or painting, creating is not a career that you choose to make a great deal of money at. That being said, it's been really good to me. It's paid for a lot of things along the way, and but I think the problem that I have, that many artists have, is you sell a painting, you get $500, and you can easily justify spending a couple $1,000s in art materials, because you're a success, you see. So, just a bit of nonsense to kill the time. Let's see. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be adding what is known as lupine, which is a typical alpine stalking or plant, and it's a tall plant, grows along a tall stem, and flowers along its length, a little bit like a hollyhock or a yucca plant, although really much more like a hollyhock. And so what I'm doing is just putting a bunch of leafy parts in here. Just again, I'm not painting leaves. I'm not sitting here going, here's the stem and here's the pointy and here's the round part. I'm just slashing some green paint down willy-nilly in a what I think of as a random pattern. Randomness in painting is for me, I think, and with my students, I find it's the most difficult thing for people to learn, is randomness. And you have to understand this and practice, not just repeating brushworks and polka dots side by side. You need to practice randomness, looking at nature, looking at how nature is both random and perfect and symmetrical and asymmetrical, and it's all of that. It's sort of orderly chaos, and that's where, I guess, what I'm trying to say is that's where the randomness comes from. You have to kind of have chaos within a pattern of believable brushstrokes. Look at the way the plant lies, look at how gravity affects the parts of it, and just paint without hesitation. And of course, there's the refrigerator. Now, in my studio, I sit here and I try to control the sound environment. I'm just using a microphone on the Mac, and the refrigerator runs, the dog barks, the air conditioner turns on and off. So just forgive me for my less than perfect audio. I'm not an audio engineer, I'm a painter. All right, so now what I'm trying to do is starting to create the flowering parts of the lupines, and again, it is a stalking plant, in that the flowers bloom, along this vertical stalk. I have tried to grow lupines in my own garden 3 or 4 times, and just, I don't know, I guess I just don't have the exact environment that they like. I've just never been successful. They always die, which is too bad, because they're a really beautiful plant. I love to garden, and I paint my gardens a lot like Monet. I plant so that I can paint the beauty of it, but unfortunately I live in an area where the soil is clay, and if you put a spade in it, you hit a rock. So it's basically rocks and clay and rocks and clay. You add you amend the soil, you try to amend the soil, and it just kind of blows away, and the rocks and the clay remain. And so I've created a lot of hardscape borders to try to keep the better soil in contained, so I can grow some things, and that's been somewhat successful. But darn it, I just can't keep those lupines alive. And of course, they come in many colors, and I think somewhere along here I've done red and orange and maybe some pink here, and I'll probably put a few purple ones in along the way, I'm guessing. Again, trying to remember. And in teaching, As you probably remember, if you're a regular viewer, that I do teach seniors how to paint. And after about 2 hours, my voice gets a little bit strained. And even in these videos, you know, you're constantly on in a class or trying to record, and your voice gets a little bit raw, you know. Imagine that's what happens to singers when they get older, is they're gonna lose a little bit of that voice vitality. So that's why we take a break. All right, so I'm putting some yellow in here, as if you needed me to explain that, but you know, kind of talking to myself here. And I think we've got about 10 minutes or so to go in this video, so we're getting there. And as I'm recording this, I'm realizing that I think this is somewhere around video number 120, so I hope you take the time to look at some of the others. I've recorded a lot of drawing and watercolor and acrylic and lots of other nonsense, and you know, but mostly they're painting videos. So take the time, please, to look at some of the others. Please give feedback and commentary, and it really does help me know who I'm reaching, or whether I'm reaching anyone, or if you would like to see videos on certain subject matter. I'd, you know, really, if it's something I can teach, I'm happy to do it. It's an ongoing process. Now I'm just putting some smaller pieces in the background. Again, these are representative of other lupines, and I'm using just smaller strokes to try to give a little bit of perspective. You know, big blooms in the front and just tiny little dashes of color as you go back a little further. Trying to create that visual perspective, depth. Just use my instincts, and I look at the painting, and the painting speaks back at me visually, or I see areas that look like they need a little here and there, areas that are neglected. I just keep bouncing around with paint and trying to make it look like something. It's just instinct that's come with a lifetime of painting. You know, you just get in there. Now what am I doing? Now I'm getting in with the itty bitty little bits. Okay, putting some tiny little whatever's in between the lupines, other you know, flowers, other alpine flowers. All right, so we've got a little over 5 minutes to go. So let's see. As I said before, I think the next video, and maybe it's number 3 or number 4, I don't remember, you're gonna see a lot of changes, and you know, I want people to be encouraged by watching how this painting changes. I want you to watch all 4 videos. Watch how this painting changes, because again, I want people to know that they can not be afraid, and they can make changes of any kind, and just, this is how we learn. Just keep working, trust your instincts, allow yourself to experiment, go crazy once in a while, do something foolish with it. You know, use strange colors. You'll learn something. We learn by doing. We learn by doing things that don't work, so that we know not to try them again, or to try them in a different way. And that is, I think, the message in this series of videos is just allow yourself to change your mind. And even if you're just a hobbyist and you're just painting and you're just copying calendar pages or something, at least put several calendar pages together, or you combine images so that you're not just copying. Put different images together in your composition. Redo it. Make it your own. If it's, I don't know, if it's I want to say a beach scene, make it winter. No, that doesn't work. If it's, a forest, make it a fall scene. Make it a winter scene. Make it something other than what you see in the photo that you, or the whatever you're working from. Again, I prefer to work from my imagination, but I can do that because I've painted so long, and I was in the art business, or the gallery business, the framing business, and the art supply business most of my life. So there are just millions of images in my subconscious that I've seen looking at catalogs and selling prints and working in galleries. So I think it's a little easier for me to paint from my imagination than it probably is for a great many people. But it works for me, so I just keep doing it. All right, so once again, I'm just trying to paint some sunlight into this place, which is going to be where this town is going to be. So just trying to brighten up that little valley. And let's see, I'm also putting some sunlight on the tree branches, anywhere where that light, and there I go again, making changes to the sun/moon, whatever it is. And I think this is probably where I'm going to use my finger to try to smooth these edges, which you'll see me do pretty frequently with paint. It's not going to hurt you. It is oil paint, so you do need to. A lot of people wear, what do you call those, plastic gloves. I don't worry about it. I mean, it hasn't killed me yet. I'm still going. A little trick here. The very best way to remove oil paint from your hands that I have ever found is to tap a can of WD-40. I don't know why this works, but it works so much better than paint thinner. Just when you're done, or at some point, maybe not when you're done, but at several points during the painting process, I get pretty dirty. My hands get pretty filthy. So just a little bit of WD-40 on one hand, rub it on both of them, wipe it all off a paper towel. It's miraculous. It just cleans up so extremely well, and it's better for you than letting that paint soak into your skin. Now, most paints are much more safe than they used to be. They tend not to use as much lead or cadmium. Of course, you can still buy paint with those things in it, but a little thing is, if something says cadmium yellow, it probably has cadmium yellow in it. It probably has cadmium. Of course it does. It probably has cadmium in it. But if it says cadmium yellow hue, that usually means that they've somehow created a believable cadmium yellow without using cadmium in it. So it's a safer. So if paint is called something hue, then it's generally it's a safer paint without lead or cadmium or cobalt and all the other nasty things that they used to put into artist oil paints. So we're coming to the end here. God knows what I'm doing. I'm just kind of fussing around with it at this point, making mistakes, making little changes. Paint something light, darker, paint something dark, lighter, then change your mind and back again. Just adding little details. On to the next painting at some point. And let's see, we're just about a minute. There I go again with that sun. Maybe this is where we use our fingertip. I know I did at some point. And so I will say thank you for watching. Keep watching my other videos, and at some point I'll be uploading the final 2 videos in this series of painting an Alpine Village from your imagination. And if I did not say thanks for watching, I will say that now, which I've probably said several times, because again, I am very thankful for anyone who watches this and gets something out of it, and of course leaves a comment and says that I have helped them. I would really appreciate that. So there we are. We're just fuzzing out that sun, moon thingy, whatever it is. And I guess we'll find out. All right, bye. And I said goodbye, but I realized I've got another minute. Oh, another minute to go. So just, I'll just say, here it goes again. I just can't seem to get enough yellow into that sun, moon thing. All right, so goodbye for now.